My name's Debbie Allen. I've been a mentor for 6 years in this. I've been saved as a Christian for 20-some years. So when I talked about having quiet time, we weren't taught that, didn't know what that all meant. So I didn't even know what the Bible, when I first opened it, somebody here told me, they go, now the Old Testament is where before Jesus was born. And that was revelation to me. The New Testament was that. I was like, really? I mean, that was amazing to me. Over the years, it was something I had to develop, and I had to realize that this is important to me, that this is really, I want to learn how to spend quiet time. And I honestly don't know how far back I started this. I know I didn't jump right into it, but eventually, I knew this is something that I did want to spend more time getting to know God and speaking to, and listening for Him and speaking to Him. So I started setting my alarm at 4:30 in the morning, and I get up and I spend time from like 5 to 6, about 6:10 every morning. And it's a time, I really encourage you to find a time when there's no interruptions. You know, my husband's not up yet, and I have a dog, but I do not let her out because she would constantly be bringing me toys, want me to play or something. So it's just where quiet time, that is so important to me, and no interruptions, you know. And if you need to, turn off your phone, let people know that you aren't going to be doing your phone this time to this time, you know. This is your time. And I even think it's important as kids get a little bit older to say, you go play now, this is mommy's private time. This is mommy's time to talk with God. So you need to go play or set a time or whatever when they nap, and Abigail's going to be talking about that a little bit later with 2 little ones, how she manages that quiet time. But I cannot stress enough how important the quiet time is. Now, I do start my quiet time. Everybody can do it different. You don't have to do it just like how I do it. But set aside a specific time. It doesn't have to be morning, but that is the best time for me, is the morning. Because I feel like my whole rest of the day goes so much better. If I waited till evening, the TV's going, my husband's home, I wait too late, I'm tired, I'm going to be falling asleep. And so that's when I just do it first thing in the morning. And I just start out my quiet time by just talking and thanking God for what He's done and just being in His presence. And then I go into just, asking God, for things that I'm praying for, and mainly for His will also, because a lot of times what I pray for isn't God's will, maybe, or any of us. We don't know what God has planned for us, but we need to ask His will to be done in our lives. But over my lifetime, it has been so instrumental for me to spend my quiet time in the morning, because we don't know what we're going to face throughout the day, but God does. And He can prepare you for that in that quiet time in the morning. Just to give you an example of my quiet time, my dad came down with mesothelioma, which is asbestos cancer. And him and I were very close. And he lasted about 1.5 years, and then about the last week he was having trouble breathing again. And so I took him to a doctor's appointment. My mom went with us. It was on a Monday. And we went in there, and the doctor said, no, there's no more fluid on your lungs, but your cancer's just getting worse. And of course, you all know that's not something you can be healed from. And so we went home, and I cried every day that week, because my dad meant everything to me. And every day I cried and I cried. I just could not even function. I went to work and stuff, but it was just so hard. I cried and cried and cried every day. That Friday morning, I was in my prayer time, and I honestly asked God, I said, I don't know how to let him go, because he's everything to me. He loves me unconditionally. He is proud of me. I don't know how to let that go. And I distinctly remember in my prayer time, God saying, just hang on to me, and you don't ever have to say goodbye to me. Cling to me, and I love you, and I'm proud of you, just like he is. And I felt a release at that time, and I remember kind of just in my mind clinging to God, and I felt like a happiness and a peace, like that darkness that was hanging over me for all that week was gone. And that Friday night, I went to my mom and dad's to help out with supper and stuff, and help them get out of the chair and go to the bathroom and everything. And then the next day, Saturday, we got a call from my sister in the evening, and I live right now like 20 miles southeast of Great Bend, so I have like 20-mile drive in. And but when my sister called, it was like, I was like just a block from the hospital, and they said my dad had quit breathing, so they would take him to the hospital. So I arrived there first before anybody else, And my mom, she was slow in getting around, so they said, when's she gonna get here? They kept coming out, and I said, it's gonna be a while. They're helping her get dressed, but it's gonna be a while. Well, they wanted somebody to call it. You know, they were still doing CPR on them, they wanted somebody to call it. So I was able to go in and see my dad, they were still working on him, and I'm the one that made the call to just quit it, because they had worked on him, they said he hadn't breathed in like, it was like 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. And I said, it's done, it's fine. I mean, we knew he was going downhill. But if I would not have been in my prayer time that Friday morning, because really the rest of the day, I felt happy, and I thought, oh, I shouldn't feel happy because my dad was still dying, you know? But the peace that surpasses all understanding that the Bible talks about, God prepared me that day. That God prepared me knowing, let go of him and hang on, and he waited. That to me is what is so special. God spoke to me and waited for me to come to him and let me release him and cling to him. And then I have 7 siblings, so when they all were coming to the hospital Saturday, I did not shed a tear. I was done. God had let me grieve that whole time, that week, before, when they come, then I was fine. I know my husband, I was driving home, he goes, are you okay, you wanna drive? I said, no, I'm good. And I was, I mean, and God was with me, because I remember specifically, we were on vacation and we found out he had asbestos cancer. And I remember going in the bathroom, and in the motel room we were at, and I said, Lord, you're gonna have to help me through this, because I thought this isn't gonna be easy for me. And I distinctly remember him saying, I will. And in my private time is when he speaks to me. In my private time, not just then, but I'm saying those times when I'm quiet and I'm praying and I'm seeking his face is the times that he prepares me for what he's got planned for me that day. A year and a half later, okay, my mom's getting bad. She has COPD, and we put her in the hospital. And here in Great Bend, she was in intensive care. And I distinctly remember the morning, again, I was in my prayer time, and I distinctly remember God saying, are you ready to let go of your mother? And I said, yes, I am. She died at 9:30 that morning. Mm-hmm. Again, it's times, if I would not have been in my prayer time, it would have took me totally off guard. Mm-hmm. But when I heard she had died, I was like, kind of God already told you that, you know? So I am very fervent in prayer and seeking God, seeking his face. And it's kind of like, if we, all of us women here, hopefully, is everybody married here, been married?
No.
No? Okay. Well, when you're married, I mean, you have a relationship with your fiance, and he gives you a ring. You know, we're all like, once you're in that relationship, you want to spend more time with him, constantly, all the time. You want to spend more time with him. It's not like when you get saved or you get engaged, you're like, okay, is it okay if we just maybe see each other once a month? Are you okay with that? I mean, we're engaged, we know we're going to get married, so are you okay with that? Well, no, we want to spend every waking moment with him. We want to know him more. We want to know his heart, know who he is and stuff like that. Well, it's the same thing. Once we get saved, we don't just go, oh, this is great. Okay, I think I'll just, maybe once a month or something like that. Is that okay? You know, the only way we know somebody better and know more is to have that quality time with them. To know him, read his word, read what he says. The Bible is a love letter to you. It's wrote for you. So everything in there is God saying how much he loves you. Why would you not want to read that? Why would you not want to spend time in his presence to know somebody? Because people in the world are going to disappoint you. They're going to hurt you. But Jesus, I mean, he's somebody who loves you so amazingly and unconditional. And you don't want to spend time with them? I'm lost on that, I guess. For me, I am confused why people don't. Maybe it's not that they don't want to, but maybe they're having time finding private time. I always tell my girls in my group to quit trying to find place for God in your life. You need to make your life around God. You know, take your busy life, make God first, and then work your life around it. Don't have your busy life and then try and fit God in here wherever you can. Make God a priority, just like brushing your teeth, combing your hair, taking a shower. Even lots of times, sometimes if I was busy, if I'm eating breakfast, you know, and I'm eating breakfast, read. I can read it, you know, my Bible, I can read a devotional or something that ministers to me. Now, I always make sure I read my Bible first, but if I have spare time, then I can be, reading a devotional or something like that comes along. But for me as a mentor, I'm very firm on that. If you know, they have to read their Bible every day, you know. If they don't, it's a couple days, I'm okay with that. Even like if something comes up, you know, having a baby, you're busy. You know, a week goes by, that's fine, but when I hear our girls in my group saying, well, I'm 2 weeks behind, I'm 3 weeks, okay, there's an issue here. you're not putting God first. Well, I'm busy. Okay. I actually have had some of my girls tell me, okay, I want you to write down your schedule, what you do throughout the day, so I can kind of see what's going on here. I've had some spending 6 hours on Facebook in a day. That's why she's not in the Bible. Okay, there's a problem there. You know, God's our only answer. He's the only one that has the hope. He's the one that's going to direct our day, and He's preparing us. He's working with us. He's walking with us through the day. We need to meet with Him first and say, okay, Lord, what do you got for me today? You know, get in His Word and be built up for whatever the day brings for you to go on. Now, Abigail's here. I'm coming at it from an empty nester. And, you know, I don't have kids around. I don't have to deal with little ones running around me and stuff. I did it one time, and I still spent time in the Word. But Abigail's going to share. This is under a week old little one here.
She's a week.
Mm-hmm. A week today?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to let her share how to work in when you have little ones in your life.
Yeah, well, like just like you just said, when you have a baby, it's been about a week since I've had any good quiet time. And, you know, I'm at the point now where it's just like, man, I'm just craving it. You know, it's just something that I've never longed for it before, like I do now. And hormones, sorry. You know, but when I first started the program, because I had gone and talked to Jane about it, and, you know, just kind of trying to feel out how big of a commitment it was going to be and if I could do it. And she's like, yeah, you can do it, because you're going to be busy, but if you make time and if you make it a priority, you know, it's going to be, it's good. And so about 5 or 6 weeks in, I think, is when we start like developing our quiet time. And I was just, after about a couple weeks, I was just so frustrated because I was way behind on my Bible reading, and I'm kind of like check the box too kind of person, like type A personality, like gotta get it done. And the cool thing about Women of Valor is your mentors and the people that you're really involved in your small group, they just kind of, I'm kind of like put my walls up, like everything's fine kind of person, but these women just keep pushing into your life, and which has been such a cool experience in itself. But so one of my mentors came over, and she sent me a text. She's like, I'm coming over, we need to talk about this, and because she knew I was frustrated, and she was just like, you know, it's gonna look different for you, because the expectation I had of myself was getting up early in the morning and getting all my quiet time and everything done, you know, before I started the day, or, you know, listening to how other people develop their quiet time and trying to model after them. And, you know, she just told me, she's like, it's not gonna look different, or it's gonna look different for you. It's not gonna be the same as it is for everybody else. And so just kind of like hanging on to that, and for somebody to come and speak life into you and just be like, you know what, it's okay. It is gonna look different for you. And so she's like, if you just have 10 minutes a day, you know, because in my head, I'm like, quiet time, okay. I wanna have an hour and a half, you know, just kind of have time to develop my thoughts and read my Bible and all this stuff. And she goes, if you have 10 minutes, start with that, you know? And so at the time I was pregnant with her, like 2 months pregnant, and I was just so sick. And, you know, you just don't feel like doing anything, and it's just hard to, you know, have that self-discipline. But that's where the accountability for Women of Valor really helped. And, you know, people just doing life with you and walking alongside you and encouraging you. And so I started during breakfast time, because that's when my 2-year-old was quiet. She was eating, and so I'd read my Bible then. And, you know, I didn't get all my Bible read, but it just gave me momentum for the rest of the day. And then during nap time, and, you know, as I got further into the program, like that was my time, was during nap time, and because I knew she would sleep an hour and 25 minutes. So I'd set my timer, you know, and just, yeah. Sorry, I just started hearing something. Just having that quiet time, and just like I felt like that's when God would speak to me too, and just being in the Word and the journaling, and just how important that has become in my spiritual journey throughout the last 6 or 7 months. I mean, it's amazing how when you really honor God with your time and make it a priority, the way he speaks to you. I think one of my journal entries was from Leviticus, and it was like the most profound thing to me about the sacrifices of the priest, or so, something that I never would have like actually dwelt on. You read the Bible to check off the boxes for your daily reading, and so just really honoring God with that time and making it a priority. Like he talks to you and speaks to you and rewards you with with what he has to say for your life. And so
now I also encourage you, if you are, I also have like a life application study Bible. I know that a lot of you have study Bibles or not. That is a big help too. Because even as, 6 times, or 7 times that I've read through the Bible, I still hit things, I'm like, what are they even talking about? And so if you go to your study Bible, that will help sometimes explain things a little bit deeper and help you to understand it. So you can kind of get into what they're talking about, And I even have like a real neat one, it's like a dictionary, and it has so many pictures and neat things that you can go in there and look and say, what did it look like? What does it mean? And it really, I think it's Holmes, Holmes dictionary, Bible dictionary, but it's really a neat book. I really like it. Tell me some of your problems that you have, or what issues you're having with finding quality time with God. I mean, or questions you may have from me or Abigail.
I think for me, it's often just where to start, what to do, because I think sometimes I get really frustrated with if I use a devotional book or plan, and I'm like, these questions are so fluffy, or so like, really? And then I lose interest and I chuck it aside.
So maybe if you had a study guide, kind of like what we have in Women of Valor, that it's today's this, what you read, and then like a little bit of Psalms, and I mean something like that might help you to have like, okay, today's this is what I read, and then it's 6 days of reading. So 7th day you could either catch up, or like this morning I read what we needed to today, but I'm saving the Psalms, the second part of it, for tomorrow, so I have something to read Sunday morning while I'm eating my breakfast and doing that too. So that might be something good for you too. And that way you have kind of a direction. Because to me, I'd always like, I like this chapter, and then I like that chapter. So I kind of flip back and forth, and the Old Testament, I didn't get in that too much,
And then you don't feel like you make any progress.
Yeah, you just feel like, But especially in the Old Testament, you really need to keep on track and keep moving through that, because it follows from one chapter to the next what happened in the previous chapter, so you need to keep remembering what happened, so you know, what are they talking about? It kind of just keeps flowing, so that'd be a good thing for you. Anybody else?
I think my experience was similar to Abigail's at the beginning, where I thought, okay, it has to be this hour and it looks like this, and I'm going to read, and then I'm going to journal, and then I'm going to pray, and then and I get my coffee ready, and I'd set up my area, and it was supposed to be like this event, and then gradually that's not realistic all the time. So there are times when it is like that, and that's wonderful, but then I started realizing that for me, it's like the evenings or the times that I take my bath, or I'm doing those things, because that seems like that's before has always been my time. The kids are occupied, it's like you have to bathe, right? Like you have to take that time to do that. So for me, then I start putting the Bible, the audio scripture, or and even if it's my Pandora Christian station or whatever, it's like I go into the bathroom and it's like I need to hear the word or hear something, and then before or after or whenever, then I can pray, whether it's before getting into the tub or after, and it's and that started setting everything up, because I would leave those quiet time experiences, and then I'm out of the bathtub, and I should be getting ready for work or going to bed, depending on when it was, and I found myself wanting to go straight to my Bible, or I needed to journal all of a sudden. It wasn't like I've got to make time for journaling. It's like, I've got to write this down. It was like this desire of I'm going to lose it if I don't. And so it like created that desire for the quiet time, as to where before quiet time looked like this other thing that I had to schedule, and it was something I was going to fail at, or had good intentions. But yeah, so I related to that. And there's weeks where it hasn't looked the way I wanted it to necessarily. But the enemy loves to make us feel guilty.
Yes.
So the more that I was spending less time with God because of crazy schedule stuff, the more I'd start to beat myself up, and I'd fall behind on my Bible reading, and then it's like, well, here I go, I'm failing again, I'm not doing this, and now I don't want to face my mentor, I don't want to face the other gals, because it's like, I'm doing it again, but then when you learn the tools and to be able to recognize that that's the enemy, he doesn't want me in my quiet time.
Or he wants you to feel guilty.
Yeah.
It doesn't look exactly the way he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finding the tools, like I found finding the tools for you is not the same as, for say, Debbie. Like I fall asleep reading. So the Bible audio has been amazing for me because I sometimes will follow along listening because it'll keep me focused. Before I would start reading and literally I'd catch myself an hour later be sleeping.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's just finding what works for you. It shouldn't look the same.
No.
Our journeys shouldn't look the same as yours or yours. You know what I mean? It should be our own personal walk.
And you're right, I would not let Satan be, if you start feeling condemned and convicted that you're not doing, and I'm like you, there's many times I fell asleep, and I felt like, by the time it's time for me to get ready, I'm like, really? That was a totally waste of time. But God knows our heart. He knows our heart. He knows that we're really trying and that we did want to spend time with Him. And one time when my son was at home, I have 3 boys, and he moved out of the house. And of course, when they first move out, you just can't wait to see them again, And we live out in the country, and he was coming. I seen his car coming, and I'm like, oh, he's coming to visit. He's coming to visit, And it goes right past our house, over a bridge, into his girlfriend's house. I'm like, serious, And I felt so disappointed. I'm like, really? I wanted to see him. And God relayed to me that time. He goes, I know. That's how I want with my kids too. And I see him. They had all good intentions, and they pass me right by, and they don't even stop. And it's so many times the Lord has spoken to me through my kids like that. It's just like, so I know God's heart when we drew, and He knows that what I'm saying is, Joyce Meyer always says, don't feel condemned when people say, I spent 2 hours in God's Word, and like that. Well, I can't do 2 hours. I can't, but if 5 minutes, God cherishes those times. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, here, there.
3 or 4 times a day, Tim.
Yes.
Or
Talk to
whatever.
him. Talk to him all the, I know when I was the first new Christian, and it said, pray without ceasing. I'm like, what? I've got to work. I've got to how am I supposed to sit and pray all the time? I'm thinking being on my knees and praying. I'm like, what?
You
Well,
pray
now
when
in
you
my
walk in the
faith,
door, you pray for your coworker,
Now I know what he means, because all day long, you're just talking to him, you're asking him for guidance on stuff, you're thanking him for something that's turned out good. That's why I know what they mean now by pray. Pray without ceasing means all day long you talk to him. But there's some times when there's just no distractions, and you could just spend a few minutes in his word, just letting him speak to you and praying to him and stuff means everything to him, because he wants that relationship with us. It's all about the relationship. It's not a duty and a check mark. I went through that too. It's like, okay, and Women of Valor, check mark, I got that read. And then it's like, really? I don't even know what I read, And so I've always told my girls, if you just stop and pick something up for the word that day and just mull over it and you use it in your life, that's more worth than making sure you read the whole chapter and you got to check mark off, because then you're defeating the purpose of what Bible reading's all about. Anything else want to share?
Unless you're reading like First Chronicles, right? I mean, it's just
Or
like,
numbers.
Why does it make
But that's so, and then I just keep coming back to the scripture, like, the Word of God is alive and active, it doesn't matter what you're reading. Obviously it was all important, otherwise it wouldn't be involved.
That's right.
So just, I don't know, just being open to what, and asking the Holy Spirit just to show you, in Leviticus, how is this applicable to my life, and it would just, I don't know, there's just something to be said about that too, even in First Chronicles.
yeah.
And, I was just reading that too, like before she came, and I just thought, I just kept reading all these names, and I would just put my name in there, like, you know, Abigail Cordell, I'm the daughter of such and such, and she's gonna be the daughter of such and such, and you know, like, just, you know, just asking the Holy Spirit to give you revelation about, yeah, what you're reading and why it's important, and we got a book in our curriculum, or just, before, the Women of the Word, or Women,
No.
that book we got, and the preface, or one of the first chapters, the author says, you know, we should be reading the Bible to figure out who God is, not what he can do for us in moments of our life, which there's a place and a time for that too, where he speaks to us through his word. But as a whole, you know, just general revelation, we're reading about who God is, and I don't know, that just really changed my perspective on how I read the Bible and what it looked like in my quiet time to focus on that instead of, oh, I have all these things going on in my life right now, God, just give me something, you know, and just, I don't know, it just changes your perspective, and having that time to just concentrate, you know, having a quiet time.
And something
Really.
that helps me a lot before I read, because I still have problems reading a word and not sure exactly what I'm reading. You know, sometimes it's just like, what now? Yeah. Is I really have started before I read is to ask God, this is your word. Give me wisdom and knowledge of what your word says. Help me to understand it. I don't want to just read and check mark off a box. I want to really hear and understand what you're saying. Give me wisdom and knowledge of your word. And then I'll read it, and believe it or not, every time I do that, I feel like I'm reading a little bit slower and really grasping what the word is saying. Because God does, I mean, when we ask God, I want to know your word. I want to hear from you. I want to know what it says. I don't want to, I mean, he's going to honor that. Because that is really us saying we want to know you more.